Radio people, we are going to do more functions now. We did a video before functions, now there's some more, there's many more to come. These are the ones we're going to do today. And we're going to use this edit box for the person to type in a number, and this spin edits, we need them for the user to type in to enter some integers. Remember, we use spin edits only for integer entry, and the edit box we can use for real numbers that have to be entered. So now the power function. Right, now power needs to have a special unit included in Delphi called math, M-A-T-H. Actually, this version of Delphi obviously is different. Your version will need math for squared square root, the math unit. Anyway, so we're going to use the power function. What it's going to do, it's going to take a number and make it to the power of another number. So we can say 3 to the power of 2 or 2 to the power of 3. So maybe the user chooses a 3 there and a 2 there. Now the power function can only work with integers, but oh, here we go again, guys. Look what's happening. Oh my word. Yeah. Okay. What a problem that is. I'm going to open it using Delphi 2010 rather. So I have to open Delphi 2010 first. I've got both versions of Delphi on my computer. Is causing a problem, so if you do have two versions of Delphi, you're going to have a problem like I've just experienced now. But we're going to stick to Delphi 2010 and see if that gives us any issues. This is something that could happen to you as well. And fortunately, I did save it. Because I've got two versions of Delphi on here, I have to actually open Delphi first and then go File and Open. Unfortunate, but it's true. Okay, we're in. Right, let's see if we have any luck here. Ignore. Right, so go back and edit 3. Oh, we've got edit 1 and edit 2. The spin edits were removed. Okay, so let's go and put our spin edits on spin edit. So the Delphi, that other free version, I think it's because I've got two versions of Delphi on the same computer. I'm guessing that's the reason. I always get that problem. Anyway, fortunately we haven't done that much coding. So, file save all to see how quickly did that. Anyway, so we're going to go do the power, but before we do that, let's go and add our math. Yeah. See, doesn't need all this VCL nonsense here anymore. So I'm just going to delete all of these. VCL refers to the new version of Delphi. Yeah, that's the problem with adding new different versions of Delphi on the same computer. I'm just taking out the VCL in front of those units that we're using, and I'm going to add that on called math. Power needs math, and so does square root and square, but we didn't have to use it in the last program because we used the different version of Delphi. Anyway, power needs two numbers. we're going to try it with 2 integers, and then we'll try it with 2 real numbers and see if that works. Actually, let's go and try it with 2 real numbers just for fun. So we'll say label 1.caption. And why am I saying label 1.caption? Because I want to display something in the label. I want to display our answer inside the caption. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this to me. Label 1.caption. There it is. Label 1. We want to take a number. Let's just say 2 power, and in brackets 2 to the 2.3 to the power of 4.5. Let's see if that actually is going to work. That should be interesting. But don't forget, what does power return? Well, we don't know if it returns a real number or not, but we'll say float to string. In this case, could possibly return a real number because of the fact that we are putting 2.3 in bracket in the parameter and 4.5. Now my 100%. Let's see. Don't want to bet on anything. Right. So oops, didn't like that. Get rid of the VCL. Okay, now it should be fine. But we'll see if there's any syntax errors here. And yes, there are. Oh, I've got a duplicate of that. When you have duplicates of your units up here, this is what's going to happen to you. I'm actually glad this is happening. If you have problems, duplicate units here, those of you who are using the new version of Delphi as well as the old version will have all these sort of things happening. So I think, oh yes, controls is duplicated. You cannot have a duplication of the units here. This list, I should have seen that. Okay, let's try it again. Always let the processor do the work for me. I don't want to do it. Right, remember this is the old program that we used where we had enter input. If I click the power button, there we have it. It works with real numbers. If I want to work with integers, then I would do that power 2 to the power of 4. We all know what 2 to the power of 4 is, eh? That's what 2 to the power of 4 is. Take power, you put power, the word power, then you say in brackets, you put 2 numbers. 2 is the base and 4 is how much you want to take it to the power of that, what you call it, the exponent or something. I'm not good at that. My power, there we go. 2 to the power of 4 is 16, which we know is correct. So, and we found it works with real numbers as well. 2.3 to the power of 4.2. I'm putting 2 different numbers in there. And well, okay, just click power, and there it is. Of course, we can round it and so on. We'll come to that later. Now, what if the person, so we've just discovered that you don't have to have integers, but you could if you wanted to. I will just put an edit 2 there. So we have 2 spin edits and 2 edit boxes. I'm going to use power with the edit boxes. So first of all, I'm going to get the numbers from the edit boxes. VAR, rnum1, rnum2, real. Remember I said this power can work with real numbers and integers. And we'll say rnum1 equals string to float, edit 1.text. And then we'll say rnum2 equals string to float, edit 2.text. And then all we do over here, if you want to say this rnum1 is the base, and then rnum2 is the exponent, there we go. And what if you want to go and round it, we can do that too. So what happens then is we just put in our number and put in our other number, click on power, and then we have a big long number and we can round that off. We'll do that later. We could also use it with integers. Okay, so we can have I_1 and I_2. String to int, and then we can use our spin edit one dot value, not text, dot value. Spin edit one dot value. Remember the spin edit as a dot value property, whereas the edit box has a dot text property. And I_2 will be spin edit 2 dot value, and then we will have I_1 and I_2 here. I_1, I_2 exponent, and then it will display it in the caption property of the label. Right. Oh, this must be an integer. See, I kept it as real. If I was going to run this program now, it was going to give me a problem. Watch, there you go. Cannot use it. We're going to change this to integer. So if you want to use integer, it must be string to int. If you want to use real, it's string to float. Okay, so let's get on to the next thing. The next, that's power. The next is round. We want to take our answer from the power, or any round number. We can round any number, we don't have to just take that one. We're going to round now. Here's my button click. Oops, it is, okay. Read the code that's there. See, I was doing other stuff. This is from the previous program we did. Quickly delete. Right, go and do our round quickly. And we're going to take any number and round it and display it in the label. Label1 dot caption equals. Now we can't just say round and then go and, we can't just go and just do that. We have to say, what are we going to call it? What is round going to return? Well, my guess it won't return a real number, but we can try float to string. Let's see if it does return a real number. Okay, because round actually gets rid of decimals, so let's see. Oops. Oh, into string. That was my previous. You see, people, I make the same mistakes you do. Very easy to do that. Right, now there's an error. Oh, into string. Integer and string. Spin edit one dot value. Oh, string. It's nothing. It's because I_num is an integer. So we don't convert. We are dealing with an integer. I_num is an integer. Spin edit one dot value is an integer. Sorry, we're going back to the previous one where we were getting input from these spin edits. Why did I forget that? Yeah. Spin edit one dot value, but I made the mistake, so you won't make it. How's that? So your right hand side, the dot value property is an integer, and your variable is an integer. So the left hand right hand side now are the same data types. So we don't convert anything from a spin edit unless you want to display it in a string as a string. Then you'll say into string. The dot value on a spin edit is an integer. We don't convert it when you want to go and put it into an integer variable. Right, let's go back to this other thing now. We're trying to check this one out here. Go and check it out. Round, I can also cancel that. Let's click on round 44. It works perfectly fine. And what if you said int to string? So round will return a real number, but also, because a real number is also an integer, can it be used with int to string? So if I take round, if I take a decimal point number over here and I round it, will it then be an integer? Well, was the processor happy with it being an integer? So we're going to see now. And we're going to click round and there it goes. So round can be used with returns an integer or a real data type. Well, because remember the real number system is the big set, integers are the small little subset of the real number systems. So if you have an integer, it can also be classed as a real number. Okay, and we put a real number in here, or we can put an integer in here too if you want. What if I just put 45 in there? Don't worry about that little thing. Round. There we go. There's nothing because it's rounding it to the nearest decimal point. Okay, so we know we've discovered float power and we've discovered round. Let's go and do round 2. Now this is getting more interesting. Round 2 is a lot more interesting. A lot more interesting. Round 2. There, that word there, round 2, double click it. Let's go and see. Let's think of 2 numbers that we can get, and one number, so we're rounding one number. Hey, this one was round, it just had one little number inside. But round 2 has 2 parameters, but it also returns something, a data type. So it's say equal to round 2, and in brackets you have to put your number 54.236, and then, well, let's call it 256.236. So your number goes in here. Okay, here's my bracket. Put your number inside, and over here, what is going to come out? Oh, the number followed by how many decimal points you're going to round it to. Let's say we're going to 2, and then I'm going to say rnum equals. I'm going to guess that it's a real number. So make sure I have a variable called rnum that's real, and I say rnum equals round 2, and in brackets there are 2 parameters, not just one thing. I've got a big long number here, that's a decimal point there, that's a decimal point. Comma means I'm going to put another parameter in, another thing in brackets. There's 2 things in brackets with round 2. And let's go and display this and see what happens. Label 1.caption. And because rnum is real, float to string rnum. Okay. Label 1.caption, float to string rnum. Rnum is a real number, we're converting it to a string to display it in the caption. Left hand side, right hand side, the same data type. I'm assuming rnum is going to match the data type of round 2 here. So real number, let's see what happens. Round 2. Let's click the button. You know, remember what our code is? There it is there. There's our code. Click on round 2, 300. So it actually went to the hundreds. So that 2 means hundreds. It rounded to this digit over there. 2. Rounded to 300. So now what if you put a minus 2 in? Let's see what happens now. Rounding to a minus 2. Okay, so there's our code there, and I'm going to click on round 2. You can see it rounded to 2 decimal places. So there you can work with all of this. And if you put a 0, it's going to round to 0. Click on round 2, rounds to the whole number. And everything works fine. So round 2 works with a real number. It will not work a decimal as an integer. I can't make inum over here as an integer. It's not going to work then. So these are the things that you have to sort of memorize, you know. I can't go and put inum here. This is not going to, even if I go and say int to string, let's see. Int to string. integer, 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 and round 2 returns a real data type, so it's given an error. Integer and extended. Extended means a real data type. Yeah, there's the same word for many things. Extended is real data type. What else is real? Floating point and a decimal number, those are real numbers. Extended, decimal, floating point, all refer to real data types. Right. Now we're going to do the next function, which is, have a look, div. That's where we're going to use 2 integers. How does div work? How does mod work? Right, I'm going to try over here with a number. Let's say we have a number 25, okay? And let's say I'm going to try and divide, right, let's say 2 and 5. Right, I've got this number. Old-fashioned, what's the name? Old-fashioned division. And I want to see how many times can 3 go into 25. Okay, so I'm going to put a 3 over here, and I'm going to divide 3 into this number 25. Okay, 3 goes into 2, no, 3 doesn't go to 2, so 3 goes into 25 how many times? 3 8s are 24, so we'll put an 8 over there, and then we've got to write the 2, 24. Okay, 8 times 3 is 24. Then we subtract these 2 numbers from each other. And we're going to say, okay, 2 is 5 minus 4 is 1. Can 3 go into 1? No. So then we go and say 8, remainder 1 is the answer of dividing 3 into 25. Okay, we don't use decimal points. It's not 8 point something. We use the remainder, just like in junior school maths. Now, this will return is the div part. Div is the 8 and mod is the 1. So I'll just color code it maybe. The div, when you use div, then you're getting, oops. When you use div, then you are using how many times something can go in. But when you use mod, you're using the remainder of that division. When you use div, you calculate how many times a number can go into another number, whole times, and then when you're using mod, you're calculating what is the remainder after dividing one number into another number. Okay, so we're going to demonstrate that here. The thing with div and mod, everything around it must be integers. Everything around it must be integers. You've got to say 25 div 3. So let's go and do div 25 div 3 and see what happens. Label 1 dot caption equals 25 div 3. Of course we have a problem here. Oops, 25. Because 25 div 3 return, is an integer, so I've got to say int to string and that. Now let's see if that works. There are errors. Oh, float to string. I never corrected my previous one. Don't worry about that. We've been through that part. Now we're doing this one. Okay, we're doing div. There it is. See how we did that? 25 div 3. But if I said 25.2 div 3, oops, not comma 2, 0.2 div 3.4, let's see what happens then. Errors, error, 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 doesn't like these things. You can't put real numbers around div or mod for that matter. That is how you do it. And div is a function. Okay. You're calculating how many times 3 can go into 25. You're not displaying the remainder though, or any decimal point. All you're doing is displaying the whole number, 8 in this case. Now we're going to do the same with mod. Right. So there we go. I'm using the same numbers, take note, but I'm using mod over there. So I'm using mod here, I use div there. Now let's see what mod gives us. Click on mod. 1, exactly as the problem stated. I mean, solution. Exactly the same. See? What is this? Oh, that's my executable file. Right, so 1. And it works. And also like mod, you can't put decimal points there, only integers can go there and there. So if we wanted to put spin edit 1 dot value in here, and then spin edit 2 dot value, spin edit 2 dot value, and you can do the same with the div. Okay, like such. I'm copying and pasting those. Div. Alright, so I'm using both of those with the spin edits now, instead of just hard coding. So I'm going to choose numbers over here, I'm going to choose a number there, choose a slightly complex number. Okay, 11. You want to see how many times 2 can go into 11, so I'm going to click on div 5 times, and the mod part is 1. Oh, I'm going to do another number that's not going to be so obvious. Right, 13. 6 times. Oh, that's also going to be remainder. Okay, let's try a different number. 4 goes into 13 3 times, and there's 1 remainder. Darn it. 3 goes into 13 4 times, and there's 1 remainder. This is not working for me. And it's complex numbers. 131 div 3. 43 times and 2 remainder. So it's 40. Div is how many times 3 can go into 131. Mod is the remainder of dividing 3 into 131. 2. Very useful functions these. You can use them a lot all the way to grade 12. Right, moving on to trunc. What does trunc actually do? Well, what does it? It removes the decimal points from a number. So let's say you have a number 23.521. Okay, so you have this number. Let me get rid of this borders here. There's your number, okay? There it is. Now that number 23.521. Trunc is going to basically remove all of that and just take it away. Question is it going to return an integer or a real number? Let's go and see. Right, trunc. We're going to go and display it in the label, and I'm going to say equal trunc 23.451. Oops, 51. And let's convert this to, let's try a real an integer first. Int to string. So whatever's in brackets here, we're going to assume trunc is going to return an integer. Okay, let's see. Does it return an integer? Does it return an integer? Yep, it sure does. And if I used float to string, it will still work because integers are also real numbers. But we're going to double check that. Trunc, yep. The trunc works with integers and reals, because if it works with an integer, then it'll work with a real number. Remember, the real number is a big set. So we've taken that number and it chopped off the decimal points and returned an integer. Chunk returns an integer. So that's also very useful. It doesn't round, it just returns the number 23. You want to double check again. 23.451. Click on trunk. There. See, my number was 23.451. And the answer was, we trunked 23.451 and we got 23. Right, last one, random. Now random, it's actually not called random. We use something called random range. Random is also a function that can be used, but random range is the most frequently used. It's more popular because it's much easier to do and everyone uses it now. Random range also needs the maths in the uses section up here, which we have got math there. So random range, what we're going to do is you don't even have to put in randomize or anything. You just have to go straight into and use random range. Random range will return an integer. Okay. It will not return a real number. You cannot say, well, yeah. You can say rnum equals random range. Now, of course, I've got to go and make rnum a variable. Okay, let's go and make rnum a variable. var, rnum, colon, integer. Random range. You want to get a number from 1 to 6. Both included. You know, when you roll the dice, it's always around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, comma. If you want the numbers from 1 to 6, then you actually have to, your second parameter must be 1 more than your upper limit. So random range has 2 parameters. The first one is your starting number that you want people to be able, they want the computer to guess. Not guess, but generate. And then the second parameter is 1 more than the highest number that you want people to guess. I mean, when you want the processor to generate. You want the processor to generate numbers 1 to 6, then use random range, open brackets 1, comma 7. We'll go and display our random number in a label, and because rnum is an integer, we have to say int to string rnum. Okay, what if it is real? Well, we're going to try real just now and see if it works, but we're going to go and do this and see if we can get all the numbers and see what the random number is that the computer generates. So random range, generate the processor, when the processor sees that, it generates a random number from the range of 1 to the number 6 in this case. You have to put 1 more there, 7. One of the things that you have to do and memorize. So I'm going to click that button until we get all the numbers. Don't tell me. Just better not bomb out of me now as I'm going to. Okay, random range 1, 2. Okay, I'm clicking the button. When are we going to get a 6? I'm just clicking the button. There we got a 6. You see that? There's another 6. So it'll never be a 7. We've had all the other numbers, but not a 7, because 7 is just, that's just the way that you have to call the function. 1, comma, and then the 7. Right, what if you change this to a real number? R number, rnum, real, let's see, and then we say float to string. Float to string. Right, let's see. There we go. But it does generate integers only, so you can safely use integer variables when you generate a random number. Same with trunk, you can safely use integers with trunks. And div and mod, we saw what happened when you try to put, you know, real numbers inside. When we were using div and mod, we must just have integers in the parameter in the list. Where's my div? There it is. Now we used integers. You must have integers next to the mod, in front of the mod and after the mod. Div, integer in front and integer afterwards. Right. So that is playing with all those different functions. They're quite complex, and just go over it again in the video again if you get confused. Obviously we didn't even use these input boxes except for there we did. So yeah, and keep on coding.